This video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Hey guys, Big Paul here today with an anabolic Q&A. My brain's pretty fried. I'm on the last 2 weeks of contest prep, so hopefully this makes sense. I'm going to stumble my way through this one, so I apologize if I sound incoherent at all during this thing. It's because I'm running on basically no carbs, and I'm fried. So questions we got on deck today. Is the post-show rebound thing the best cycles to prevent hair loss? Would low-dose Tren be better for the off-season than high-dose Primo? If I had the budget for one, would you choose GH or Real Primo? Do you cut calories during deload on a contest prep? Do you grow more from twice a week training or once a week training? Is that really a thing? Can you stack Nandrolone and Tren together? And the final question I have is, Paul, can you tell me about your injection site horror stories? We have all of those today coming up in just 1 second. All right, first question here is from Sicilian Cannoli and an Espresso. What a name. I like that one. It was about the post-show rebound. He said guys like John Jewett said it's actually not a good time to be primed for growth because your metabolism's slow. And then other dudes like Justin Harris, Milo Sarchev say it's the perfect time for growth, and that's when you should take, and what my thoughts are on it. I don't know, it's not like there's scientific research on this shit, so we have to go from anecdotal experience. And I can see really both points of view. I can see what John is saying. You know, when you're coming out of a hard prep, you're just buried. Sometimes fatigue is so bad. It's not like you can train hard. Your metabolism probably is slower, depending. And, you know, maybe it's time to just kind of deload and take a break. And then there's the other school of thought. That's when you want to mash the gas pedal down a little bit. Your body, your insulin sensitivity is the best it's ever going to be. You're going to be eating a shit ton of food anyway, because you're going to be hungry as fuck. So you might as well take advantage of it. Train, try to keep your diet somewhat under control. Take advantage of eating that additional food, and run moderate amounts of gear. You don't have to run a full blast, and do some growing. And I tend to be on the latter side of it. Guys are going to eat like assholes anyway after show. It's just how it is. So you might as well push. What's a little bit more? And I'll tell you, instantly when you eat that food, at least it's been my experience, after a show, you instantly feel better. Within a few days, you feel like a new person. You get the best pumps you've had, and you just prime back up. And I've seen it over and over and over and over again. I think there may be situations where maybe somebody's so buried that they need to take a break after a show. But I've seen it with the best growth I've ever had have been after a hard cut. My body is just primed and ready to go. And I'm eating food anyway, so I might as well take advantage of it. Run some insulin. And, you don't even need much insulin at that point because your insulin sensitivity is so good. And just push and take advantage of it. And I've seen it over and over again with me and with other people that they just get the best growth of the year afterwards. And I think a lot of times what ends up happening after shows, guys are so worn out, they just don't really train. They eat like shit. They stop taking all the gear. And then they just turn to mashed potatoes after the show. And then your whole off season's fucked at that point. You accumulate a bunch of body fat in a short period of time because you aren't training. You stop all the gear and the fat burners cold turkey, and then you're fucked. So what I do after a show is I slowly taper down the fat burners over a period of week. I just don't come off cold turkey, and I slowly taper down the gear over a period of like 8 weeks, into a cruise. And that gives me time to eat, not crash my metabolism, allow myself a rebound, and then after like 6-8 weeks, I've kind of reset my metabolism at that point because I've been eating more food, and I'm ready to take a little bit of a break, sort of a maintenance phase or a deload, whatever you want to call it, for 6-8 weeks, and then you go into the off-season push in a really good place. To me, that is the most optimal way to do it. And that's my 2 cents on the post-show rebound. So Isaac Davidson asked, if you're prone to hair loss, are DHT derivatives better, or is there some trick you can use to avoid hair loss after when using gear? First of all, if you like your hair, probably shouldn't be taking gear. But really, thinking about it logically, probably the safest thing you can do to take gear if you want to protect your hair is just stick with testosterone, growth hormone, and some insulin, and then use a 5-AR inhibitor with it, because the 5-AR inhibitor is going to block the DHT conversion from the testosterone. It does not block, there's no conversion on DHT derivatives, so it's not going to do anything to prevent any hair loss from DHT derivatives if they, are prone to do so. I know some guys have, I've heard dudes melting their hairline using Primo. Another option, and I've seen, is running Nandrolone only cycles and using that, and that seems to be relatively safe on your hairline. And a caveat there is you do not want to use a 5-AR inhibitor when you're running Nandrolone only cycles, because Nandrolone 5-alpha reduces to dihydronandrolone, which is actually easier on your hairline, and when you take a 5-AR inhibitor, it actually makes it worse. So, that is an option, but probably the safest option would be just to run test growth hormone and insulin. Growth hormone and insulin aren't going to cause hair loss, and use a 5-AR inhibitor. If anything else, you're taking a chance. Like I said, the DHT derivatives, a 5-AR inhibitor, it's not going to help because they don't convert to DHT through the 5-alpha reductase enzyme, and nandrolones convert to something different. The same thing with equipoise, it converts to dihydronandrolone. Dihydroboldenone, DHB. So it's, and I'm off the top of my head, I don't know DHB's effect on the hairline. Maybe it's worse, maybe it's better than it would be with or without. So my 2 cents is, I'm not obviously I'm not the expert on hair loss. I just got to a point where I just said, fuck it, I'm just going to accept it. And it was fighting an uphill battle for me. I used a combination of Propecia and Rogaine on my head, and I kind of staved off hair loss until I got to 40, and then it was just an uphill battle. It just wasn't working anymore. And the Propecia gave me erectile dysfunction, and to me, I'd rather have a hard one than have hair. So what's the point in having hair if you can't have sex? That's my 2 cents. Anyway, guys, that's all I got on that one. Soviet Slug asked, would running 150 milligrams of Tren in the off-season versus running something like 500 of Nandrolone or EQ yield equal or greater results with lower doses? I don't think, my 2 cents on Tren, I don't think Tren is that great of a size builder. I really don't. I know it gives you strength, it increases aggression, but I have just not found it to be that great of a size builder. And maybe it's because I can't sleep when I'm on it, because it makes me feel like shit and I can't train hard. But I just have not found Tren to be that great of a size builder. I would much rather run Nandrolone or Equipoise and run them in higher doses. And Tren is toxic as well, so I think you get more out of running higher doses of less toxic compounds. I'd rather run something like a gram of Primo than 150 or 200 milligrams of Tren in the off season. I don't know, I could be wrong about this, but I don't feel like to me, I feel way better on a gram of Primo than I do on 150 milligrams of Tren. Tren makes, and my blood work reflects it too. My blood work looks better running a gram of Primo than it does running 150 milligrams of Tren. My blood work starts to go down the toilet when I'm running Tren. And I feel like shit. I can't sleep. I lose my appetite. Tren just makes me feel like shit. So To me, the only benefit of Tren, I've talked about it a million times over, in the off season, we want to run high doses of the lowest toxic compounds that we can do. So we have appetite, we have motivation to train hard. And I think that's the best strategy for size, and save the Tren and the toxic stuff for contest prep when we need the body composition results that it gives us. I don't know. I just wouldn't. I know some dudes run Tren in the off season. I just don't think it's worth it. Magnus asked if you had gyno during puberty, is it safe to assume that you're going to have even worse problems with gyno when you run testosterone or run a cycle? I had gyno during puberty, dude, and it formed, when I was a teenager, kind of shrunk up and went away, and my very first cycle, I think it was Anadrol. I don't know. It was some pills that some dude gave me. Pretty sure it was Anadrol. Might have been D-ball. I don't know. I was in college. I just said, somebody, here's some steroid pills. Take them. I took them. These are stupid shit that you do when you're younger. But my gyno just blew up. I mean, I had a giant lump of gyno that blew up from it. So, yes, it's safe to assume that you're going to get even worse gyno. He also went on to ask if running drier compounds like Primo would prevent it. Possibly, you could run an aromatase inhibitor and use things like tamoxifen to prevent it. But if you're super prone to gyno and you already have pre-existing gyno and you're hell-bent on running cycles and you want to be a big dude and this is the path you want to go down, I would save up the money, get the gyno surgery done. I've had it done. It is worth its weight in gold, and then you don't have to worry about it again. I will say I did have, there is a caveat here. I went to a shitty general surgeon the first time I had my gyno surgery done, not a plastic surgeon or a reconstructive surgeon, not somebody experienced with gyno removal. And my gyno ended up coming back because he didn't get all the gland out and he didn't know what the fuck he was doing and it looked like shit. So I had to have some reconstructive surgery done on my breast. I have a video up about it if you want to check about it, to clean up the scar tissue and the shitty job that the previous surgeon did. So make sure you get a good surgeon that's experienced with gyno, somebody who I would recommend a reconstructive plastic surgeon. There's a difference between a regular plastic surgeon and a reconstructive plastic surgeon. So make sure you find somebody who's a reconstructive plastic surgeon. They tend to be more skilled surgeons than general plastic surgeons. That's the route I would go. Just get it removed. Don't have to worry about it again. So Blake Moore asked if I have the budget for either Real Primo or Chinese generic GH for a off-season cycle, which do you think would I would get more mass out of? Here's the thing with GH. GH is a subtle, slow burn. I don't think you get much out of GH unless you're willing to commit to it for the long term. Running it for a 16-week cycle, you're going to be disappointed. You just are. I just don't think, running 4 or 5 units of GH for 16 weeks, you're going to see much out of it. GH is one of those things, in my experience, that you have to run for years on end for it to provide any benefit. So unless you can afford to run GH continuously, I just would save the money on GH. GH also seems to have more of an impact on older guys than it does on young guys. In theory, if you're in your early 20s, you should be making plenty of your own GH anyway. The only time really for young guys running GH would probably be on contest prep, or like, let's say if you're just making a push to get a pro card, then maybe you spend the money on it. But if you're a young guy, I probably wouldn't even waste the money on GH, to be honest with you. And the thing with Primobolan, it's a luxury item. I do love Primobolan. I use Primobolan a lot. If you have the budget to run it and run it correctly, it is very nice, but you can probably get more for way less out of, let's say, Nandrolone or Equipoise. Probably better value for your money. If I were you, it sounds like I'm making a sales pitch here. What I would do is run a test, Equipoise or Nandrolone, and take that extra money and hire a coach that can help you with your diet and help you with your training and to get the most out of the anabolics that you are taking, you would get more results out of that than you would running Primo or GH. I don't know why people don't hire a coach. I've always had a coach, and I always get my best results when I have somebody there to help me, to hold me accountable, to make sure that I'm doing the right thing, to help, It's hard to be objective about yourself, and you make bad decisions about yourself. And I see it all the time with guys that are constantly like waffling back and forth and can't stick to one plan. And then having a coach to kind of kick you in the ass and keep you on the straight and narrow, make sure you're doing the right thing, is very helpful. All right, Elijah asked about taking a deload while you're cutting. Should you cut your calories while you deload while you're cutting, or not? I don't know. When you're cutting, you're doing the whole purpose of a deload is to eliminate stress. And if you're going to cut your calories even further and you're already in a deficit, I don't think that reduces stress. I don't make any changes to my calories when I'm on contest prep. Now, I've only taken 2 deloads in a 16-week contest prep, and one of them wasn't even really a planned deload. I just fucking had COVID. I had to take a week off. And I still lost weight when I was off. So, of course, the carb cycling sort of has a built-in regulation to it when you're off, because you run high, low, medium days. Your medium days are your training days, and you have more calories built into those days, and your low days are off days, and actually the calories are lower. So in a sense, I am eating less calories, not a lot, maybe something like 50 less grams of carbs on a off day, a low day during contest prep. So, I guess that adds up over the course of the week. But, when I was off completely, now if you're training even with a deload, you're probably still going to run medium days, but I wouldn't change anything. I would just, if you need a deload, take a deload, use that time to eliminate stress, and let your body heal, recover in those, even if your net calorie balance is a little bit more, that's probably helpful for you in the long run. Our addict asked about my take on twice a week per body part training. Is it actually more growth training everything twice per week than it would be just training everything once a week? Once again, this is anecdotal. It's been my experience that yes, I do see more growth. I see more stimulation from twice a week training than I do from once a week training. So let's think about this. When we're training, the training is the stimulus for muscle protein synthesis. We eat food to fuel the muscle protein synthesis, and we take anabolics to speed that process up. So if you're providing a stimulus twice per week versus once per week, just one would logically think that's twice as many growth opportunities in a year than you would have normally. Now, I know it doesn't translate one-to-one like that. A person who trains twice per week per body part is not going to get twice the growth as somebody that does it once per week. And part of that is because, like, if you're doing a bro split, you're working upper body is still, several days a week anyway. So you're still, getting some stimulus to those, maybe not direct, but you're getting some indirect stimulus to upper body parts anyway. So, but let's say it's 20% more. That's pretty significant. Let's say that rather than gaining 10 pounds of muscle in a year, you gain 12. Over a 4 or 5 year period of time, that's an extra 10 pounds of muscle. That doesn't sound like a lot, but think about what 10 pounds of steak looks like. Add that to your body. That could be the difference between getting a pro card and just, kind of banging your way around local shows. So that extra 10 pounds can make a huge difference. I think it's more beneficial. I get guys all the time ask me about, why I don't do a bro split or have people do bro splits, and I've done them in the past, but I think a lot of pros, when you actually talk to them when they were younger, a lot of them did push-pull legs, and they were training things with more frequency. And when they're pros, they're just maintaining and polishing. You can only get so big and then you hit a point where you're just kind of maintaining the size you have and polishing up what you have. And then at that point, probably a bro split makes more sense, so you get a little more rest in there. You don't need to be pounding everything twice a week because you're not trying to grow. You're just trying to clean up the body parts and that you already have, and you can give more attention to little details that way. So the bro split probably makes more sense once you have accumulated the size that you desire and you're just trying to clean up your physique. Until then, I think a push-pull legs, training everything twice per week, when you're trying to accumulate size, is the most efficient way to accumulate size. The Funk Wits asked if you can stack Tren and Nandrolone together. Yeah, you can do anything you want, man. It doesn't mean it's going to be great for you, but sure, you can stack Tren and Nandrolone together. In fact, I've done it many times. There's the bro rule that you shouldn't do it, but that doesn't mean that there's any science behind it. I've done it several times, and generally when I have done it before is running no test base, just a Nandrolone base, and then you add Tren to it, and it doesn't seem like you have the problems that you do normally when you have the test base. I think what the issues that people run into is that Nandrolones seem to exacerbate estrogen conversion with testosterone and cause more issues with testosterone as you're when you stack them together. So that, I think that's where the issues come from. It's not so much that there's a problem with the running Nandrolones and tests together. Or with running two 19 Nors together. It's the Nandrolone and test together that's the problem. All right, last question. RLN79 asks, what are my top injection sites and what are the worst experiences I've ever had? I usually rotate between my glutes, my delts, and my quads, because I take daily shots, so I go through, that's 6 sites. I go through 6 sites, so basically I'm hitting everything once a week. I don't like to inject in the same site more than once a week. I found that I end up with pain and scar tissue and shit like that when I do that. That seems to keep everything fresh, and you don't have a lot of the issues. The worst experience I've ever had, knock on wood, I've never had an abscess. I know several dudes that have had an abscess from shots, and it is not fun. Usually when I see guys get abscesses from shots, it's from running water-based compounds like Winstrol. They get it from that. But the one issue I had one time is you have to be really careful with glute injections because they're your sciatic nerve. I think it's your sciatic. I could be wrong about that if it's another nerve, but there is a major nerve that runs through your glute, and if you get too close to the center of your ass, you can hit that nerve. And I injected in that nerve one time, and my fucking leg went numb for days, and I had just horrendous pain in my ass and down my leg for days. It was awful. It was fucking excruciating. So when you inject in your glute, you're supposed to inject in the outside top quadrant of your glute. So think about your glutes sliced up into 4, like a tic-tac-toe, or actually 4 quadrants, and you like a tic-tac-toe board, and you want to get on that outer top quadrant. From what I understand, that's how I do it, but that's the safe portion of the glute. Other mistakes that I've made, guys talk about site injecting their biceps and triceps. I have tried doing gear injections in my biceps, and it is so fucking painful that you can't train. I don't know why it's more painful in your bicep than it is in a delt or in a quad or in a glute. Like, I don't get that kind of pain from a quad, glute, or my delt, but my God, it was fucking awful in my bicep. It was so painful. I couldn't train biceps. So if you can't train them, what growth are you going to get out of it? It just seemed pointless to me. So I'll never do that one again either. All right, guys, that's all I got for you today. Thank you for watching. I really appreciate all these questions. Hopefully I wasn't too incoherent with the contest prep brain. I'm struggling to get through this one, but I really appreciate all of you. Thank you again for watching. For coaching or consultations, head over to www.anabolicbodybuilding.com to book your spot today. I can help you with optimizing hormones, fat loss, muscle gain, physique, athletic performance, nutrition, and health. For more information, shoot me an email at bigp3rd@gmail.com.